Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson. My name is Siku. I'm from an NGO that supports the slum dwellers and mobilized and organized communities in Malawi. I'm from Malawi, so I don't have a PowerPoint presentation. You might have heard that this discussion will be about housing, but over the past few years, since we began our work, which is literally 10 years ago, we've also begun to ask ourselves about the issue of housing, given the fact that it's more personalized, and at the end of the day, all that hard work ends up being just to a few households, and we are trending towards focusing more on slum upgrading and building the capacity of people so that at the end of the day we can scale and be able to reach more the systems and politics from the government that we want to change and work on. Malawi, you might have been asking yourself what Malawi will present about, because of all the countries, I think Malawi is at the lowest ranks of urbanization in the world. I think we're still one of the least urbanized countries in the world, with less than 15% of our population living in cities. But I think we're currently undergoing a paradox where our urbanization rates are one of the highest, at over 5% per annum. And unfortunately, the number or the percentage of the urban dwellers who are living in slums or informal settlements is one of the highest as well. It's over 75%. This has come about because our government does not believe nor appreciate that there are poor people who live in the cities, because to the government, poor people are in the village. So what it means is that we currently don't have any policy nor action that is geared towards planning and preparing for these 5% per annum who are coming, or just the natural growth. So as more people are moving into the cities, they're finding a system and an urban setting that is not ready for them. I think this is history being repeated over and over again. But as one of the speakers already alluded to in the morning, in other countries there was some form of industrialization backing this. In our country, there is virtually no industrialization. So what we are experiencing really is the urbanization of poverty, where people are just moving into the cities, hoping for a better future for themselves and their children, and there is just no industry, no jobs. But with that, I mean, it hasn't given our position. We haven't said that we're going to wait until we reach the Nairobi or South Africa levels of problems in urban settings. We've begun working on trying to change how government thinks, and also showing them that you're better off preparing for the problem that is definitely, it's already obvious that the problem is growing and is coming very soon. My colleague Sarah will discuss more of what the communities themselves are doing. But from our end, as the organization, as I've already mentioned, I think we also came in trying to demonstrate from the housing point of view, but with the numbers and the citywide stature or nature of where we want to be, where we want to ensure that the whole city is prepared or preparing for the communities. I think the other way around of our work has to now start to look into how do we mobilize the whole community in an informal settlement to start looking from within and challenging themselves of what has been taken as the status quo and how the problems are arising. And I think over the past few years we've been successful, because now we have networks of all the informal settlements around the city that are busy enumerating most of the stuff that Ruby mentioned and David already mentioned in the morning. They're saving and they're preparing towards finding space for negotiating and engaging the state. Because as I've already mentioned, the state is not ready for these multitudes. The state here has no system, no structure to deal with a poor person in a city. So you go to the city, there's no unit that these people whom they could engage with. So the people were not ready and the state wasn't ready. But with the coming in of this mobilization and growth of these networks of slum communities, we are starting to see cities striving towards melting towards maybe some form of space to engage poor people. And because the city doesn't have in-depth information that comes from the enumerations, this has become, the enumerations and the profiling exercises have given a starting point of that discussion, because now poor people are going with the information that the city doesn't have, and they're also going up with the upgrading plans. Remember, the city has said this is a forgotten place, there are no people living here, and the people have gone there with slum upgrading plans and designs that show their aspirations. And unfortunately, I think, which is also now linked to the fact that our cities and our national government has no urban policy. So because we don't have an urban policy, it also means there is no financing towards anything urban. So the rural districts will get millions of funds towards their development projects, and the cities or towns will get nothing. So it also means that even if the communities have designed or devised excellent plans, they will not get any support besides the camera, they feel good, know what you're doing is a good job, to implement their projects. So at the end of the day, all that work starts becoming frustrating to the communities, because they're stuff that, especially for the household good, they could do so much more. But for the community good, like the drains, the roads, you can't do without the government putting in money. So what we are now working towards is working with the cities that are starting to melt and starting to see that it's possible to establish citywide upgrading funds. Because if the city could have a pot where communities that have designed, devised, planned, prepared could apply to and get some resources to do a little road there, to do a little bridge there, a little drain there, maybe we're thinking that the central government will start seeing that it's actually a worthwhile investment, since you could even track it. The multiplier effects of such could actually be looked at from the economic point of view. So that's where we are as a country. But I would like to say that as the city of Lilongwe was somehow unfortunate or fortunate to be chosen to be part of the Gates Foundation project called Global GPMIG, unfortunately, because of the problems I've alluded to, the city was never ready for such kind of attention. So the Gates Foundation has pulled the project. They just came from nowhere and said, you're hopeless, we're taking away our money. And the Gates Foundation gave the city 3 months to say, whatever projects you had, we give you 3 months. And because the city was working with the organized communities and ourselves, the communities were able to say, but we are already ready to implement. So with that, the city at least could have some sure saving face when these projects are implemented. I think Sarah, because she lives in one of the 2 settlements that are targeted by the slum upgrading Gates Foundation funded program, and she's one of the community contractors that is currently carrying out the several projects that are happening parallelly so as to meet the deadline. One would say, I mean, this is totally against what we all work for, that it will be generic, donors should not have a say. But if you are in Malawi, where to us having these Gates funds was the salvation we needed, because we realized that at least we'll be able to show to the world and even to our own government that investing this little money can make this kind of a difference. We could not let this opportunity go by saying our principles tell us we follow this procedure, because for a poor person in a community, those kinds of principles will not build a drain. So we have accepted the challenge, and I think the city is actually now looking up to the organized communities to actually do it, because the city itself already failed. That's why the project is being pulled. But now, because of the chance of working through the organized communities, it looks like the project will at least have some saving face when 30th of June comes and the project is closed. The project, though, is not closed to all the other 4 countries. There were 5 countries. Zimbabwe in Harare, Angola, Luanda in Angola, Monrovia in Liberia, and Cairo. So it's only in Lilongwe. But, it's for us, it's not the fault of the city of Lilongwe. It goes back to the fact that our country has no interest in investing to create systems that allow for urban development, especially issues that looks at poor people. So Sarah will just touch in on the communities upgrading projects that they are currently undertaking. It's just a week old. So me and Sarah, we almost refused to come because we realized that our being in this conference will actually go a long way in ensuring that it fails. But we also realize that if we claim that we've been building the capacity of communities, I think the project should be able to continue in our absence. So we could allow Sarah. Thank you.